Hello everyone, welcome to the lesson on the while loop, which is the second lesson on control structures. Now a quick recap of the last lesson's activities. Last time we met, we dealt with the for loop, where we have a for statement which is used to implement count controlled loops, and its syntax is made up of an initial condition in brackets, which is the variable that is to be initialized, separated by a semicolon. Then we have a conditional expression separated as well by a semicolon, and then a variable modifier. Then after that we have a block of code where we are supposed to perform a certain number of statements or certain specific statements whilst the conditional expression is true. Then after that we did an example of a for loop where we had a program that was supposed to find the sum of the first 15 positive even natural numbers and the sum of their squares. So if you remember from that sample block of code, the code that we used, where we had I as the counter that would count from the first number to the 15th number, and then for as long as while I was being counted, we would have another variable that we declared as sum that would continue to add itself with the new value of I, and then the sum of squares would add itself to the square of I, and then at the end of the loop it would print the last value of sum that we had and the last value of the sum of squares that we had. And now for today's lesson, the while loop. A while loop is like a repeating if statement. The similarity being that if the test condition is true, the statements get executed. Then the difference is that after the statements have been executed, a while condition is checked again, and the cycle repeats until it evaluates to false. So the following is the flow chart of what a while loop looks like. So when we go from the initial code, we first test a certain condition. If that condition is true, we execute a certain code block, and then after we execute that code block, we will go and test the condition again and then this cycle will repeat itself until the value becomes false. That's when the program will go to the next stage or end. So today we are going to do a program where a user is asked to enter an upper limit number, which is any integer that we are going to declare as n, and then our program will save this number in memory, and then we will use a while statement to print all the numbers that start from 0 up to the last number that they entered, and then after which we hold our screen a bit so that we can be able to see our results. So back to the programming environment where we're going to use our TC. Likewise, you go to the file and then you open a new program that you're just supposed to go and hit save. And then in this case, since we're going to be using a while, let's just save it as while .c. Then you press OK. Okay. Then the first line that we'll write, of course, is to include the preprocessor directive. So we're going to type #include plus stdio.h for the standard input-output header file, and then we have our main function, and in our main function we're going to have the code block for the main function. So we have two variables that we're going to declare, that is the value n, the variable n, and then the counter I, which we initialize to 0. So this counter is going to count from 0 to the last number, that is n, when we are going to make use of our while statement. So then we have a print f function to request the user to enter the upper limit number. And then we end our printf function, then we terminate with the semicolon. Then we have another function, the scanf, which is also called by the preprocessor directive standard input output header file that we declared here. So the scanf saves whatever is entered on the screen to memory. In this case, we want to save the integer n. So we type in the code that we need for us to be able to save the integer, and then we specify the variable end with an n like this, and then we terminate again. Then now we go to our while statement that we want to do for today. Let's just include a tab in there so that we'll be able to show it clearly. So the while statement will start with the word while, and then in brackets we have our test condition. In this case, we want to print the value of I as long as I is less or equal to the value of n, which is the upper limit number that is entered. So we just type I, and then we put a less than sign, an equal sign, and then n. So we are saying while the condition I is less or equal to n, print the following code block. So we have our code block for the while statement. Inside our code block for the while statement, we can press a tab so that we will really see what's happening. We have our printf function. This printf function will print to the screen. In this case, we want to print the integer every time. We wanted to print an integer every time our while condition is tested. So we can go the integer to be printed. We can as well keep a count the numbers that are printed. Yes, we can have a tab character. Then print the number. So we type in % and d, and then we want to create a new line every time a new condition is tested. So we finish our printf function, and then we insert a comma so we specify the variables that are going to be printed to the screen. In this case, we want I plus 1 to be printed, that's the counter, and then we also want the actual value of I to be printed. When we close our printf function, we terminate it again with the semicolon. Then we increment the value of I++. The reason why we want to increment the value of I++ is such that our test condition, when it increments, it will be getting closer to the upper limit number that has been entered, which is I. And then after we do that, we can get to the end of our body of statements that we need to consider. Then we go back to the last part of the program. Before we get to the last part of the program, we want our screen to hold a bit for us to see our results. So we include the function get ch. So let's get ch. Ch is a command that will hold the screen until, and then we'll be able to see our results until we press any other key. So this is the end of the program, and then we want to go and compile it. Then if it shows us that there are no errors, and then it also shows us the available memory that this program is going to take up, and then where the program is being linked, and then it gives us a message success, press any key. This shows that this program was able to compile successfully, and then there are no syntax errors in our program. So we just hit any key, and then we are now going to be able to run our program. So when we run our program, we enter our upper limit number. In this case, we want to enter 5. And when we press enter, it will print numbers from 0 to 5, and then in this order. So the integer to be printed on number 1 is 0, then the next is 1, the next is 2, going on like this. Then we go back to our program. After we declare our variables, we can now go and verify our program. We can use the command clear screen. This one clears the screen every time we want to run our program, so that it starts on a fresh page. So let's say we want to print 4 numbers, there's 5 numbers. Our program will be like that. And then we hit enter, we are back to our program. So this is the basic on the while loop, and then we can use it every time we were to use a repeating if statement. We can replace it with a while statement, and our code will be a bit shorter. Thank you very much.